Pennywise was better in the movies than in It's Welcome to Derry.
What?
Now, I know that statement probably already has people head into the comment sections because apparently Pennywise is the best he's ever been. He's got aura, he's got edits, and he's even got nicknames now. And I do get the hype. In Welcome to Derry, Pennywise is extremely badass. He's a spectacle, he commands his scene so well he's all you want to pay attention to when he's on screen. But here's where my problem arises, because being cool isn't the same thing as being frightening, and in trying to make Pennywise feel more impressive, Welcome to Derry ends up making him feel less unsettling and more like a cliche horror villain. And this is something I personally felt when watching the recent series. One of the reasons my channel is as big as it is. Wait, what I meant to say was one of the reasons my channel grew to 300 subscribers is due to one of my theories on the show, which kind of blew up considering the size of my channel. I watched many small creators like myself grow rapidly due to making videos praising this incarnation of Pennywise. And while they're justified in doing that, I didn't want to jump on the bandwagon just for views and subscribers, and that wasn't how I actually felt. So here's why I didn't enjoy Pennywise in Welcome to Derry as much as I did in the movies. Personally, in the movies, Pennywise genuinely felt far more sinister, not over the top or over exaggerated, just very menacing. And a lot of that had to do with how the movies lent into the universal fear of clowns. They're an unsurprisingly very common fear that's rooted in the feeling of uncanniness. Most of the time, we understand they're not dangerous, but they're so unorthodox that there's an internal barrier that's instantly built when you come across them. Don't get me wrong, I understand that technically Pennywise isn't a clown, it's an entity that takes on the shape of one. But when the foundation of fear is built into the disguise itself, that's what makes Pennywise so unsettling. He doesn't really need to do anything extravagant to frighten you. The sheer nature of him being a clown already takes care of that. And I think the films understood this pretty well. They combined the inherent fear of clowns with extremely bone-chilling performances from Bill Skarsgard, who really helps to sell that horror and unease.
This isn't real enough for you, Billy. I'm not real enough for you.
One of the most frightening aspects of Pennywise in the movies aren't the killings as scary as those moments are. It's his demeanor that haunts you. The moments before he kills, the way he just suddenly pauses before striking, or the way his expressions linger awkwardly, coupled with that sinister smile, these mannerisms create intense discomfort before anything dangerous is yet to happen. One scene that's always stuck with me throughout the entire franchise is Pennywise's encounter with Patrick in Chapter 1. I think it perfectly encapsulates everything I've been discussing. The scene takes advantage of Pennywise's greatest asset, the clown persona, combining it with the red balloon that is so synonymous with clowns to begin with to build anxiety as it edges towards Patrick, and in the blink of an eye, when the balloon pops, it's followed by a childlike choir. The melody itself is an interesting creative choice. It's innocent, almost soothing, which makes sense considering clowns are primarily associated with children, but when that music is paired with the image of Pennywise, bloody and smiling, it creates a deeply disturbing juxtaposition. That's why subsequent scenes like the killings work, because in addition to the fear coming from those actions, anxiety has also been instilled from everything that has been set up beforehand. Up until now, I've been talking about why Pennywise worked so well in the movies, so naturally the question becomes, why didn't he scare me the same way in It's Welcome to Derry? And the simplest answer is, he felt cooler than he felt frightening. I believe this is why there are so many TikTok and YouTube edits glamorizing the character, because whereas in the films his appearances made you tense up, accompanied with a genuine sense of dread.
Hello, Vicky.
Welcome to Derry provides you with a very different feeling. I wasn't dreading his appearances, I was actually anticipating them with excitement to see what he would do next, and that's when it dawned on me that these two portrayals feel fundamentally different. I do think the writers understood that most people were tuning into Welcome to Derry specifically to see Pennywise, and to their credit they withhold him for a while, which does make his eventual appearance satisfying. Seeing him contort his way out of Maddie's body was unsettling, and it even gave me flashbacks to It 2017 when he shapeshifts from Georgie into Pennywise. On paper, the reveal kinda works, but how it's presented to us is why I have reservations about this portrayal of the character. Look, when you compare Pennywise's first appearances across the 3 adaptations, the contrast becomes really evident. In It 2017, Pennywise first appears in the darkness of the sewers. It's subtle, it takes the audience by surprise, and the scene is deeply uncomfortable, and it ends with him eating Georgie's arm and dragging him into the sewers. In It Chapter 2, his first appearance is him dragging Adrian Mellon out of the water. We see it from the perspective of Adrian, who's badly beaten and drowning, so Pennywise looks almost ghostly as he offers support to him, before the scene hideously ends with him eating Adrian's heart right out of his chest. Again, the horror comes from the suddenness of it, the quiet intrusion of Pennywise. Now when you compare that to Welcome to Derry, the initial transformation as we discussed from Maddie to Pennywise is creepy, but the reveal doesn't hit nearly the same way it does in the movies, because it feels like Pennywise is being showcased to us. Rather than letting the discomfort of Maddie's transformation sit, the scene just rushes past it, almost as if it's eager for us to react. There's light bouncing off of Pennywise, the camera sits there for a while like it's waiting for us to get our reactions in. And the way I see it, when a horror character, especially one like Pennywise, starts being introduced like an event, yeah, the fear is totally diminished. Which also takes me on to my next problem with the character in the series. Unfortunately, everything just feels too much. The gore is more extreme, even the performance from Bill Skarsgard, which is good, still feels more exaggerated than it needs to be, and it ditches everything that made the character so frightening in the first two movies. And what's actually interesting is Welcome to Derry proves this point. One of, if not the best scenes in the show, is the Juniper Hill flashback scene. Pennywise enters the scene so ominously, grabbing the iconic balloon and just standing there letting the anxiety build, and then when he lunges at the camera, it works because of everything that just preceded it. I think this whole scene was so frightening, and we don't actually see Pennywise eat Mabel, we just hear it. And that ambiguity is exactly what works for the character. Our imaginations fill in the gap, resulting in fear that lingers beyond the scene itself. Now, when you contrast that with scenes like Mr. Kirsch's beheading and the removal of the principal's head, they are objectively way more graphic than anything we'd ever seen up until then, but they just don't hit the same for me because the fear is reduced to the scene itself, rather than the psychological build-up that makes the character so scary. I feel like I've seen those types of murders in 99% of other horror media. It just didn't feel like Pennywise watching a lot of those scenes. It just came across like the writer's confused shock factor with fear, when what made the character frightening was the slow psychological build-up that made you dread what might happen. And then that finally leaves me with Bill Skarsgard's performance, which I've touched on briefly throughout the video. Listen, Skarsgard is Pennywise, I'm not even questioning that, but I do think his performance as Pennywise in Welcome to Derry isn't nearly as convincing as in the films, and that has a lot more to do with creative direction than his ability as an actor. In the movies, Pennywise felt unhinged, but in a contained way. The betrayals are a lot more reserved than Welcome to Derry, but never leaves you feeling at ease at any point in the films until the end of chapter 2, obviously. Throughout the duology, Skarsgard leans more towards the distorted clown-like voice
'Cause I've missed you.
and the eerie facial expressions that you'd associate with a killer clown. In Welcome to Derry, Pennywise also feels unhinged, but in a different way. Instead of the quiet horror the show opts for extravagance, the character is a lot more expressive, the deliveries feel a lot louder and more forceful,
There's a spot for you all.
often replacing the clown-like voice that made the character feel so inhumane with a deep voice that feels like anyone could be delivering it. And that doesn't make the performance bad, but it just stops the character from feeling as disturbing. Anyways, this is a hot take, I know. My channel's called Unorthodox, so you will be getting those unorthodox opinions every now and then.
No.
If they're for you, well, subscribe. If they're not for you, well, I'm sure you'll be back.